Director with Common Cause North Carolina. And I'm joined today by my colleagues at Common Cause, Tyler Day and Jane Pinsky. We are also thrilled to be hosting this evening's training with our friends Dr. Jovita Lee from NC Black Alliance, Caitlin Kaiser and Alicia Harding from Democracy North Carolina, and Lily Tallerman from Southern Coalition for Social Justice. You'll be hearing from all of us throughout this training. And before we dive in, the training is being recorded, and I hope there's someone confirming. And all of the resources that we share tonight will be provided to you by email after the training. So you will get this recording, you will get all the links that are in the chat, and all of the materials that you need to succeed as a Canvas monitor by email tomorrow. So please sit back, relax, know that you will get everything you need. And also that we have put aside time for questions and answers after our presentation. So please put your questions in the chat or put them in the Q&A function. Either one works. And we have folks who will be monitoring your questions and answering them live, and also holding some questions to answer at the end. And really important thing I want to say before we get going. Please remember that this is a nonpartisan training. And we are going to ask that everyone stay nonpartisan in your comments and nonpartisan in the chat. And if we're having trouble with that, we will remind folks. So please keep it nonpartisan. We're here for our democracy and for all of our voters. So today's training will use lessons from prior elections to help all of us prepare for this year's general election. And we're going to cover three main things. Do we have, let's see here. Alicia, are you able to advance slides?
Yes, sorry, I was just double checking to make sure translation.
All good. I'm actually going to pause just for a moment and make sure that we're good, because we're about to head into the substance. Is interpreting all set? Yes.
We have an interpreter as we speak. I'm setting Alicia as host, and when I come back, I just need host back. Okay, we can continue. We have interpretation as we speak.
Okay, great. Is there someone who can move the slides forward? Just to the third slide. Okay, so we're going to cover three main things tonight. We're going to cover why we're monitoring the County Board of Elections. We sometimes call them CBOEs. So if you hear us saying CBOE or BOE, we're talking about the County Board of Elections. We're going to cover what happens during Canvas and pre-Canvas meetings and what to be looking for. And we're going to cover how you can join this effort and important next steps. So if someone can move to slide 4, please. Canvas monitoring is an opportunity to witness one of the most important aspects of our elections. And we're going to go into a lot more detail about what that is. It's also an opportunity to build local relationships, accountability, and community empowerment, to flag local election problems, concerns, and challenges, and to help achieve better election policies in the short and long term. So some of you may have participated in Canvas before, Canvas monitoring. For others, this may be your first time, and you are all incredibly welcome here. There have been several changes to election laws which will affect this year's Canvas in comparison to previous years. And our goal is to prepare you with everything you need to know, whether this is a refresher or it's your first time. And there's no better person to introduce us to the role of the County Board of Elections than our very own Tyler Day.
Thank you, Anne. So my name is Tyler Day. I'm the Policy and Civic Engagement Manager with Common Cause NC. If we go to the next slide. So each County Board of Elections is responsible for administering local elections within their county. County boards have many duties, and that includes certifying the election results for that county, reviewing absentee ballots and provisional ballots, hearing voter and candidate challenges, overseeing recounts and election protests, appointing precinct election officials, and choosing early voting sites. The boards play a critical role in the elections process. Appointed county boards are made up of 5 members. This includes 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans recommended by state Democratic and Republican Party chairs, and then appointed by the State Board of Elections. The governor appoints the chair of each county board, and that's why you see the 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans on the screen. Each board hires a county director of elections who runs the office, manages the staff, and operates the election. So as you can see, these responsibilities involve year-round work to make important decisions affecting our elections. Now let's focus on what's coming up in just the next few days, and that is the county canvass. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to my good friend, Dr. Javita Lee, with the North Carolina Black Alliance. Javita, could you tell us what is the canvass process in North Carolina, who leads it, and why is it so important?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tyler. So again, my name is Dr. Javita Lee, and I'm here with the North Carolina Black Alliance. So most people believe elections are decided on election night, but to actually certify every election with confidence, there is an election canvass. The post-election county canvass process occurs after every election in all 100 counties across North Carolina. The canvass is so important because it includes the entire process of ensuring all of our votes have been counted correctly and required audits have been completed, culminating in the certification of election results. All of this takes place during meetings held at each county board of elections. The day of canvass, then, is when your county board of elections, including the 5-member board members, assisted by the elections director and staff, finally compile election results from all precincts and officially report the outcome of the election within the county. The board, by law, meets at 11 a.m. on the 10th day after every election held like this year, which will be Friday, November 15th, to complete the canvass of votes cast and authenticate the count in every ballot type by determining that the votes have been counted correctly. In most cases, the canvass meeting is held at the County Board of Elections office. Most county boards of elections also hold public board meetings before the day of canvass as they begin to process and count mail-in absentee and provisional ballots. These pre-canvass meetings are expected to happen during the period between Election Day and the day of canvass, so Wednesday, November 6th through Friday, November 15th. Many counties have scheduled these pre-canvass meetings on November 7th through 8th and November 12th, 13th, and 14th. In counties that hold pre-canvass meetings, they often will make the most important contentious decisions during these meetings. In past election cycles, many of the canvass issues emerged during these pre-canvass meetings, and while different from county to county, there remain some of the most important parts of the process to monitor. And we hope that you will consider attending as many of these meetings as possible in addition to the final day of canvass. Following the county canvass, the 5-member State Board of Elections, assisted by the State Board of Elections director and staff, approves the official election results. These results are then submitted to the State Board of Elections, which holds its own canvass meeting on Tuesday, November 26th, and certifies the statewide election results once all counties' results have been submitted. So, if you've never been before, here's what you can expect. What pre-canvass or day of canvass meetings look like depend on the county. Many smaller counties host these meetings in a conference room within the County Board of Elections office. In Wake County, the largest county in the state, it has historically taken place in a big warehouse. While the settings can be different, attendees to these public meetings are often similar. Here's who you will typically see: the appointed County Board of Elections chair, who generally leads the meeting. They are joined by 4 board members. Right now, that's 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans, and the chair, who is appointed by the governor. And a County Board of Election director and likely members of their staff. Also, any member of the public who wishes to witness the vote count is allowed to do so. You may see voters interested in being heard on their disputed or challenged ballots, partisan observers, potentially from various local, state, and federal campaigns, attorneys, potentially representing voters, groups, or campaigns, advocacy groups observing proceedings based on interests they serve, and members of the media who are reporting on the election results. There should be seats for the public to watch the proceedings, which will feature the board chair, board members, and elections director, likely seated in the front of the room, where election officials can examine and pass along ballots in question, ask questions, and make determinations in public view, while also maintaining the privacy of the voters' ballots. In smaller counties, these meetings may take place in small conference rooms, so don't be surprised if you're squeezed into a corner. So now you know what the canvass is, when it happens, and who participates in it. Now, I'm going to pass it over to an experienced canvass monitor, Jane Pinsky with Common Cause North Carolina, to talk about the most important part of this training, what you should do before, during, and after monitoring a canvass meeting. Jane, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks, Javita. I appreciate it. Canvassing can really be fun, so I hope you'll enjoy it. Before the meeting, you should check the date, time, and place for your assigned meeting to confirm it. This year, we have a group of wonderful law students who are going to be calling each county daily to confirm when and where the meetings will happen. This information will be available to you in a link we will share after the training. Of course, you can also call your assigned County Board of Electors beforehand to make sure that you've got it right. It's really important to do this because every so often they change things at the last moment. Once you know where your county canvass meetings are, you will want to plan to arrive early to save your seat in case it's crowded, and they can be. Introduce yourself to the county staff if you possibly can, and ask how you might inquire if you or another member of the public has or needs to ask questions. This is an important opportunity not just to get information, but also to build relationships with people who will make critical elections policy decisions for your community. During the meeting, take detailed notes about everything. We strongly recommend taking a tablet or laptop to type notes and avoid handwriting issues. Don't forget that you're going to remain nonpartisan at all times. Don't wear a political t-shirt or button. In between breaks in the process, you can feel free to politely approach the members of the County Board of Elections and staff with any questions or confusions that you have about the process, especially if you're having trouble hearing or if there's a discussion continuing from a previous meeting. Make sure you grab any documentation offered to the public, which may be an agenda or other handouts. Call the nonpartisan Election Protection Hotline, 888 Our Vote, right away if you witness certain problems or have questions, especially if someone else is there to take notes. If there is a break during the meeting, feel free to use that time to call the hotline if you have questions about something that is being said or done. Note that calling the hotline can be very useful to the work of all of the election protection organizations who monitor the concerns raised by voters and volunteers. After the meeting, Don't forget to call or text 888 our vote to report any immediate problems if you weren't able to do it during the meeting. Submit your Canvas report form the same day if possible, and scan or take pictures of any handouts and submit those as well. Now for a few don'ts. Don't interfere with the Canvas process. Don't be disruptive in any way. Do not touch or mark a ballot. Do not photograph or handle election materials. Again, do not display or wear any political or partisan paraphernalia. Don't engage with or challenge anyone who is being disruptive. Don't rely only on recordings or videos rather than taking notes. So now that you know what things are going to look like and the basics of what to do before, during, and after the Canvas meeting, I'm going to ask Caitlin Kaiser with Democracy NC to help us take a deeper dive into what to watch for and what to document. Caitlin, it's all yours.
Thank you, Jane. I'm Caitlin Kaiser with Democracy North Carolina, and I'm going to talk about some important things to look out for during any Canvas meeting, especially because North Carolina's election laws have changed in the past year. Even if you have monitored Canvas in a past election, there are a number of things that may be new to you in 2024. And this includes the primary election too. Remember, you do not need to become an expert in election law. Trust your gut, take good notes, and do your best to document everything you hear and see. To start, the most common ballot issues relate to absentee and provisional ballots. For mail-in absentee voting, the board may discuss individual voters and their issues, which include ballot problems and late ballots. For example, ballots have to be submitted in their provided envelope with 2 proper witness signatures or a notary signature and the voter signature. Starting this year, mail-in ballots are due to the County Board of Elections by 7:30 p.m. on Election Day. That is November 5th. There is no longer a grace period after Election Day. Remember, in 2020 and previous years, we had that 3-day grace period. That's no longer the case. Important, this deadline does not apply to military and overseas voters. Absentee ballots received by the deadline have certain deficiencies that may be fixed or cured by November 14th, before the day of Canvas. The majority of absentee ballots are rejected due to a missing voter signature received after the cure deadline has passed. Other problems you may hear are ballots that arrived late after 7:30 p.m. on Election Day, returned by someone not statutorily eligible to return that ballot, and so only a voter's near relative may return that ballot. Or if that voter is disabled, they can have anyone of their choice. A failure to include a copy of a photo ID or properly completed voter ID exception form. These types of problems are assessed during pre-Canvas election meetings and are finalized at the day of Canvas. For provisional ballots, which are seen a lot in cases of voter registration or voter ID problems, the board may discuss some of these issues cast by a voter when there are questions about their qualifications and eligibility to vote. And so the County Board of Elections, their staff is required by law to do research to determine if that voter is eligible to vote. Prior to this year, the most common provisional ballot issues were out of precinct voters, voters with no record of registration, jurisdictional disputes among voters. For these type of provisional ballots, it's good to document key issues, such as voters with registration issues, especially if they registered at the DMV, but they did not appear on the rolls on Election Day. This is a very common issue in North Carolina with voters registering to vote at the DMV or at another public service agency. And then when they vote on election day, not showing up on the rolls. So be on the lookout for that. Other voter eligibility issues are a voter who voted at a wrong precinct on election day and whose ballot will be counted partially. Also document process questions like whether CBOE failed to do the appropriate outreach to attempt to verify a provisional ballot, or whether there were a large number of students who voted provisionally. So if you're in Wake County, Orange County, Mecklenburg, Guilford, please be on the lookout for any issues related to student voting. Remember, because the North Carolina Supreme Court reinstated the voter ID law, there will be many provisional ballots cast by voters who either needed to return to show voter photo ID at the County Board of Elections office, or who had submitted a voter ID exception form. So now I'm going to go a bit more into detail about voter photo ID exceptions, since this is new to many voters and may be new to you. First, if any voter is unable to show photo ID when voting, whether in person or by mail, they may fill out an ID exception form and vote a provisional ballot. Exceptions on the form include a reasonable impediment to showing ID. And so all that means is a reasonable impediment is what is the reason that you cannot show ID to vote? Some common issues we see are lack of transportation, work schedule, ID applied for but not yet received. This is something that has been frequent because when you apply for your ID and have that temporary paper ID, that is not an acceptable form of identification. Another bucket of categories you may hear, because we had Hurricane Helene, voters may be using the reason of a victim of a natural disaster within 100 days before an election. So be on the lookout for that if you are monitoring Canvass meetings. During the primary election, Canvass and pre-Canvass meetings, many boards disagreed about whether to count reasonable impediments voters indicated on their ID exception form. Any impediment that could prevent a voter from showing ID when they present to vote is valid. Again, let me repeat that. Any reason that a person uses to present on that form is going to be valid. County boards must count provisional ballots, how reasonable they receive. But county boards must count provisional ballots with properly completed ID exception forms. When we say properly completed, that means that the voter selected a reason on that form, put their name, as well as signed the ID exception form. County boards should not judge how reasonable they perceive the exception to be. They should not conduct independent research into the truthfulness of this form. So you may hear in these meetings a member of the County Board of Elections say, well, if they could vote, that means they could have the time to get an ID. If you hear something like that or any sort of similar comments, please let us know. Try to describe the board member who said that comment if you weren't able to capture their name. We want to know these comments and who is saying them. An ID exception form should only be rejected if the county board unanimously finds that the form was not properly completed prior to the day of canvass, or the county board has grounds to believe the information on the form is false. Already during absentee ballot review meetings this election, we have seen these disagreements among board members regarding the approval of these exception forms. especially when a voter puts other as a reason and puts a reason such as I forgot my ID. When monitoring pre-Canvas and Canvas meetings, again, please document these decisions and the reasons the board comes to. If a county board rejects a voter ID exception form for reasons other than the two showed on your slide, it's best to call or text the voter hotline 888 our vote to let us know quickly. And when you text the hotline, you will literally be texting me. I will be the person who is responding to you. So you all know me now, Caitlin Kaiser. Text me with your questions during these pre-Canvas meetings or alerts. Remember, you do not need to be an election expert. We have a full team behind you who are these experts. Your role is largely to watch for whatever comes up and take detailed notes on as much information as possible so that myself, the Common Cause team, the Southern Coalition for Social Justice team, the NC Black Alliance team, we can be able to review these reports and make those decisions of what follow-up needs to happen. Overall, the most important basics to document are identifying as best as can who is in the room, which board members are speaking, the director, the impacted voters, any observers, including parties and lawyers. Are there reporters in the room? That is something that we may want to know. Also jotting down any absentee and provisional totals and other provided categories, any statutes mentioned, names of voters mentioned or challenged, reasoning behind decisions and who made them. For example, you will hear in a meeting a staff member present that we have 25 absentee ballots that have return deficiencies. Please write that information down. You may hear about a voter challenge or an election protest. This is information we need to know about. And so again, you're going to want to document voter challenges and hearings. A voter challenge is when a voter's right to register, remain registered, or vote is challenged. It can be challenged by an individual voter in the county, or it can be challenged by a candidate. After changes to the law passed last year, a voter can now be challenged by any person in that county up to 5 days after the election. So thinking about 5 days after the election, that's going to be November 10th. So we need people at these CBOE meetings on November 10th. The burden of proof is on the challenger, so that person bringing the challenge, but the challenged voter might have to provide documentation such as proof of eligibility, that they are a registered voter. They may need to bring that voter registration card. Make note of whether voters were challenged, including their names and what action the board took. Another category, same-day registration problems. You may hear this as SDR. Were there any same-day registration ballots being challenged or denied? If so, how many? Were there any issues with students and their mail and verifying their campus addresses? Was there any discussions about mailings or verifications not being able to be made possible? This is a lot of information. It is a lot. But in addition to these slides and a handbook, which we will share at the end of this call, there is also the 888 our vote hotline available to you. You can text us during the meeting if something seems sus. Trust your gut. And so I'm going to turn it to Lily, who's going to tell us when a monitor should text or call the hotline.
Thanks, Caitlin. So like Caitlin emphasized, it's important to kind of trust your gut when you're trying to figure out what should be flagged for the hotline. If things seem weird or things seem off, trust yourself. The hotline is there to help out both by call and by text. But here's some examples of some important issues that we'd like to hear about if you see them going on at your county meetings. So things like voter challenges, which Caitlin just talked about, or election protests. If the County Board of Election members go into a closed session and they don't provide why they're going into the closed session, or if they say why and it just seems weird. Incidents of intimidation directed at voters, election workers, poll officials, members of the public who are attending, or voters who are not being given access to the meetings. This includes if it's a virtual meeting and people aren't being let into those virtual meetings. Incidents of misinformation or disinformation. And with those, be sure to get as much documentation as you can and take as many notes as you can on something like that. County Board of Election members not allowing the public to ask questions or not giving information or explanations about things they are doing, especially if they're spoiling or rejecting a vote. We'll talk, I think, a little bit more, and people have had this question about when you can ask questions, and it depends a little bit by county to county, but just flagging that as another reason to call the hotline. If impacted voters show up and they're not allowed to speak, definitely flag that, but also try and take notes of what is going on during that conversation, a synopsis of the issue and the stories that they're sharing if they're speaking at the county, speaking to the county board members. You can also connect the impacted voter with the hotline themselves, so providing them that 888 our vote number to call or text. And again, if voter ID exception forms are being rejected without a valid reason, those votes have to be unanimous and they have to count provisional ballots with properly completed exception forms if those forms were completed truthfully. Again, if you're not sure if something rises to that level or you're not sure if it's something that should be reported, you can report it anyways. People are there to answer your questions. Like Caitlin said, she'll be on the other side of those texts, and we have a lot of people who will be there answering calls as well. So when in doubt, you can flag it for the hotline. And if you're wondering what happens with all the information you share with the hotline and that you are sharing in your reports, if anyone's actually going to read those, I'll pass it off to Tyler so he can answer those questions.
Thank you, Lily. And the answer is absolutely yes. We read everything that you submit. It is invaluable. So please know, even if it's, everything, went properly, it's very, very standard, that we want to know that. So, it really, we don't know about anything if you don't submit reports. So when you provide your observations as soon as possible, your reporting helps our coalition of election experts, our four organizations, along with the League of Women Voters of North Carolina, share our reports regularly and collaborate on how to respond. And with your reports, we're able to identify problems and identify problems with the process in almost real time. We're able to help voters that have been impacted, identify the numbers and types of voters that have been impacted, and also advocate for better election policies and voting access, including meaningful litigation and legislation that can help make a difference for one voter, or in some cases, all voters. So now I am going to, and you can see there on your screen links to the reporting form. That's what you'll use when you go to the meetings to fill out your reports. I'm going to share my screen to walk through the form and explain how this works. So I am Just a second. All right. Are folks able to see the screen? Yes, okay. So this is a look at the reporting form, and know that you will get this after the training, a link to this. A lot of the stuff here at the top is standard information for us to be able to contact you. Of course, we need to know the county that you're monitoring, um, your contact information here, the organization that you're monitoring with. There's a drop-down menu for that. The date of the board meeting that you attended, how you access the meeting. Some meetings are held in person. Others have a virtual option via Zoom or Microsoft Teams, or sometime on YouTube, or even telephone conference for some of the boards. We want to know what you use to access the meeting, and then also what were the options to the public. So even if you, let's say you attended in person, if there was a video option, then we would like to know that if possible. Was there public comment at the meeting? This is something that it varies from county board to county board. Some counties allow for public comment, others don't. So we would want to know if there was a public comment period. And further down, there is space for you to talk about what was discussed during those public comment periods. So then you'll see here a list of different topics. And what we want you to do is to check any of these that apply. Now, some of these are not going to be, I think, are not going to apply to most of the Canvas meetings. Some of these at the bottom, like redistricting or early voting sites, those things have already been decided. They won't likely come up, but you probably will hear about voter ID, which Caitlin talked about. There are going to be certainly voter ID exception forms that will be reviewed, and also circumstances with voters that need to show their ID or didn't show their ID when they voted, but needed to go back to the county board to show their ID. And so you may hear discussions about that. There may be voter challenges. As Caitlin said, there have been changes in the law regarding voter challenges, where now you can challenge absentee voters 5 days after Election Day. So that's something that we'll be watching for. Voter registration or voter rolls issues, absentee vote by mail issues, certainly provisional ballot voting issues, which is one of the key things that the county boards are going to be looking at during these Canvas meetings. And I do want to note as well, when you check one of these boxes, you'll see a pop-up box that asks you for more information. So you can see that there. Election misinformation. If there was any information about intimidation of election officials or intimidation of voters, we want to know about that. Any tech issues as well, with possible tech issues with at the voting sites or with voting machines. You'll just check the proper box, and again, you'll see space below for you to explain in more detail whatever it is that you saw. And then there's also box here for any additional support that we could provide, or anything else that was not covered. This is kind of just a catch-all. So anything else that you want to report that maybe it wasn't listed on one of those options. This may also include just reports from the director. Often the director may just give an election update and talk about statistics or different issues. So that may be a space for you to report that. And then the next date and time of the following County Board of Elections meeting. So this helps us stay up to date because we know that county board meetings can change often, sometimes with not a lot of notice. So this helps us make sure that we're keeping track of those dates. So there's a space there for that. And then lastly, there is also a button here that will allow you to upload any attachments that you have. So if you have written out your notes, or if you have attachments to share with us, and there may be a document that was shared at the meeting, and you may have taken a picture of it, and you could do that and then upload it here. So yeah, so I know that that's a lot there. Um, um, but if you have questions, please reach out to us afterwards. You're going to get, like I said, this link and a follow-up email, and we are here to help you. But I do want to stress that these reports are really, really vital.
Thank you so much, Tyler. And we've covered a lot of information. So I want to just allow us to pause for just one moment and review the key takeaways, and also make sure you know where you're going to be able to find the resources you need. So definitely keep putting your questions in the chat. We appreciate the questions you're submitting. We're going to have a Q&A session in just a few minutes, or we're getting really close to that. So get those questions ready. So first, we learned why Canvas monitoring and documentation are so important to election protection. And I just want to repeat that. Having your eyeballs in the room, taking notes. We recommend taking a laptop or a tablet or whatever you use to take as thorough notes as possible, and then submitting those through the report form that Tyler just showed you is incredibly important to our election protection work as a whole community. And the times when we need your help the most during this election is during those what we call pre-Canvas and Canvas meetings between November 6th and November 15th. Now, many of you are already helping monitor absentee meetings that are already occurring on Tuesdays, and will also occur on Monday, November 4th. And I want to extra shout out all of the folks who are already doing that, and let folks know that you are welcome to start as soon as this coming Tuesday if you are interested in getting going. But we're really focused on making sure we have as many counties as possible covered during that 10-day Canvas period. And finally, we learned that there are lots of things to look out for, but you don't have to be an expert because you are part of a team. So the question next is, are you ready to join the team? We are going to walk you through a sign-up form right now. And what I want to let you know is that the sign-up form is for you to show interest in monitoring any meeting during the pre-Canvas and Canvas period. And this form is also has a portion of it where you can sign up for specific meeting dates and times. But we know that many of you might not be ready to do that tonight. But we would love for you to go ahead and sign up anyway. And then just fill that form out again when you're ready. So I'm going to share the form here in the chat. And then Howard, we will answer your question for sure. So here's the Canvas volunteer form. And then I'm going to let, sorry, Alicia, we're going to make you crazy. I'm going to let Tyler share his screen again and walk folks through this volunteer sign up form, just so folks know what you're getting into.
Thank you, Anne. Okay. So this is a look at the sign up form. Again, you see space for your contact information, who you're volunteering with, and so forth, your current county, how you plan to attend Canvas meetings. As we said, some are virtual, some are in person. Or some have a virtual option. We do encourage you to attend in person if possible. If you've attended campus monitoring training, obviously you're going to check yes, because all of you have done that. And if you're a licensed attorney or legal professional. And then the main thing here is this find your shift section. So actually, I'm going to I'll come back to this in a minute. But if you look here at the bottom of this paragraph, it shows you that there's a link that you can go to where you'll be able to see where other volunteers have already signed up. I'll show you what that looks like here. So you can go to this link. You're going to get this again in an email follow-up. But this has a list of all the shifts, and this will be continuously updated as we get more information about meetings. So some of these meeting times may change if we get updates from the county boards, and there may be some added if there are additional meetings that the county boards need to have. But this also allows you to see if that particular county has a virtual option that's listed under dual access, under the access type column here. And then some contact information, so the address of the Board of Elections and the phone number. So many of these meetings are going to take place at the county board office, but not all of them. It's always best to contact the board just to be sure of the location and time, to make sure that nothing has changed. And then in this column, you'll see again where other volunteers have signed up as people start signing up. And that way you'll see, where we have gaps and where you can fit in. And, there's nothing wrong at all with having multiple people going to one meeting. And I know that there were a few questions in the chat about, wanting to go to a county that, wanting to go outside of your county to monitor. And absolutely, that would be great. I know, I don't know where everyone is from on the call, but I know that in the past we have had trouble getting out to more rural areas. And so we really want to be able to cover as many counties as we can. But now back to this form here. So again, all this information is listed here in this paragraph, and there's a link to that other table that I just showed you. When you're ready to pick your shift, you're just going to go down here to where it says add shift. This is an alphabetical list of all those shifts that was in that other view that I showed you. You can type in the name of your county, and it'll come up with those shifts available, or the county that you want to monitor. And then you'll be able to see the date and the time. So you'll just click on that particular time. So let's say I want to do Alamance on November 7th at 10. And again, you can do as many shifts as you want. So I can go on and add other shifts as I would like. And then if you decide, hey, I clicked the wrong one, just hit this X here and it will take it off. And there's also a box here for any additional questions or comments that you have. And then you'll just submit that and we'll have you scheduled. And you can also still fill this form out even if you don't know, which dates you'll be available necessarily. But that way we will know that you intend to monitor. And then you can come back and fill it out later when you know your availability and have a better idea for which shifts you want to sign up for.
Folks, I just want to say I feel very excited because I am already looking at the sign up numbers coming in, and we're up to 6 folks on this call who have gone ahead and opened that form and submitted it. And I know that's a lot to ask for folks when you have your Zoom screen open and you've got other things moving on your computer. But I just want to say it's really exciting for us to see those names filling in and all the commitments that y'all are making. So I want to give folks just one more minute now that we aren't sharing our screen and we have just a second, how that form works, to encourage folks to just go ahead. You do not need to sign up for a shift, but you can just get your name on the list. And later you can come back and submit it again, totally fine. We will handle that on the back end and you can get yourself signed up for a meeting. So don't worry, we will also be sending you an email probably first thing in the morning with all of this information and all the links. And you can also just open this and bookmark it for later. So we appreciate folks. I'm seeing more and more. It's very exciting. All right, so what comes next? So the first next step is you sign up to monitor. And I'm sorry, the link that is in the slide is wrong. So please don't use that sign up link. Use the one that we put in the chat. Then look for an email from us with resources, reminders. We will send it a couple of times next week as well, so folks can find that. It will include a really wonderful toolkit from Democracy NC. It will also include like a acronyms glossary that we put together at Common Cause, and it'll include the voter hotline information. And then the next and final step is for you to attend Canvas meetings. Bring a friend, recruit a friend, send them the video, get them signed up. And then of course, the most important part is following through on submitting your reports. So one thing I want to just flag before we move into Q&A really quickly is that we know some of you might be here with organizations that might be able to support and help recruit additional monitors. And I want to let folks know that there will be Blueprint North Carolina will have some mini grants available to support organizations to participate in County Canvas. And there will be an application shared very soon. So if you are interested in applying for one of those mini grants, please reach out to us and we will make sure you're in touch with folks and get that application. Their priority will be to organizations with bases and operations in a particular list of counties. So more information on that will be coming very soon. Okay, so it's 7 o'clock. I'm hoping folks are opening that sign up form. And at the same time, I know you have a lot of questions and we've got a bunch from the chat that we're ready to answer live. So I'm going to hand it over to Caitlin Kaiser to go over some of those questions that have been asked so far. And Caitlin, feel free to ping any questions back to me or anyone else to help answer.
Okay, good evening, everyone. You all had a lot of great questions. I'm going to start from the bottom and go up. And so one of the questions was about folks who missed the training, who would want to be involved in Canvas monitoring. Do they need to take this training again? We encourage everyone to watch the training. And so there will be an on-demand option for folks to listen to the recording, and we will provide that to everyone in an email within the next 24 hours. And so you can share that with friends, or if you know a larger group who may be interested, please connect with the Common Cause team or myself at Democracy North Carolina, and we can work with you on your needs. Another question we got was about UNC Chapel Hill students. We know in the news there has been a lot of information about various lawsuits that are happening in North Carolina and their status. Important to remember that UNC Chapel Hill students cannot use their digital one card as an ID. They need to use a physical one card if they are going to use their student ID. So just keep that in mind. You may hear county boards talking about digital IDs, or you may hear county boards talk about these lawsuits, about the status of them, about how they believe the lawsuit should have turned out differently. If you're hearing these discussions, please record them in your report form. We want to know about this because it may be a larger effort that we're seeing and wanting to track across the state. Another question we got is, do we have to reside in the county that we are monitoring in? No, you do not have to reside in the county you're monitoring in. I live in Orange County. That's where my voter registration is. I go to Davison County, Robeson, New Hanover. Where else have I been? I've been across the state. I've been to Pasquotank, Moore County. So if you have the ability and privilege to drive or attend a virtual meeting in a different county, please do so. You do not have to stay in your county of residence. Another question we received is, can I bring a laptop with me? Yes, we would love for you to bring a laptop, an iPad. You can bring technology with you while you're monitoring. We ask though, please make sure that any tech is on mute so that it's not going to disrupt the meeting. One thing I like to do is if I know, for example, I'm going to be monitoring with another advocate, say from Common Cause or from the League, I like to have a plan of action before the meeting starts to say, okay, I'm going to capture this. If you can capture ID exception form. We like to make sure that people have a buddy system because we all hear things differently. And so it's really great in the beginning of before the meeting starts to introduce yourself to folks in the room. You never know who will be there and you might find a friend. And so it might be awkward sometimes to introduce yourself to strangers, but we really encourage you to build those bridges with other people and learn who's in the room with you. Another question is, can we ask members to speak up while they are having discussions? And so this question, I think Jane gave a really great response to in the chat. And so Jane, I want to turn it over to you if you're available to expand about how you would approach this situation.
Well, I have to say, Caitlin, this is a moment where getting there early is a good thing. And I'll just say, I'd really appreciate it if you all could speak up as loud as possible so that I can really hear you. If it's a place where a meeting where I've been before, I can say, I know this room is hard to hear in. Sometimes, even if you're listening virtually, it's hard because they have one mic for 5 or 6 people. I pointed out to Anne that I listened to a county board yesterday, and I also had the closed captioning on because I couldn't understand what people were saying. But just the members are so happy you're there. If you say to them, I'm really want to know what you're doing, can you speak up? They're not going to mind. In fact, they'll talk to you about how their board needs a new speaker system sometimes.
Thanks, Jane. And I just want to pause for a moment about what Jane just said there at the end. Each county is funded individually. And so the state does not provide funding to counties. And we encourage you, if you are hearing about issues related to staffing or issues about technology in these meetings, to stay with us because in 2025, we will start our advocacy for election funding to ensure that one, virtual options can be available at all 100 counties, not just in our big counties that have a large property tax. So just wanted to shout that out for a moment. So back to some questions. Another question, can a person receive a photo ID at the county board during early voting? Yes. So if you know someone who needs a free photo ID, I know I saw in the chat that someone had mentioned the DMVs. The DMV right now is packed. I know I talked to someone who made an appointment and it was in February of 2025. And so if you know someone who wants that photo ID, they can get that from now until the last day of early voting up to 3 p.m. And then there is a small period between that 3 p.m. on the last day of early voting, November 2nd, to the end of election day, November 5th, where a person cannot get an ID. But after November 5th, so starting on November 6th, they can get that free ID. And so if you know someone who did not use an ID exception form and needs to return back to the county board, they can get that free ID except for in that small window time. Another question we got is, I was talking to a voter today who applied for that license but have not received it yet. Should they select ID exception form? Yes, and the ID exception form has that exact reason on there. I applied for an ID but have not received it yet. And if you have another reason for not presenting ID, say that you forgot it at your house, you can still use that ID exception form. That is allowed. It is a reasonable impediment. So what has prevented you from showing ID when you present to vote? Another question we got, is it helpful or legal to record the meeting with your phone or other device? Yes. In North Carolina, these are open meetings. And so you do have a right to record. You are allowed to. However, we ask you that if you're going to record, to be mindful of your surroundings. We don't want to be disturbing the County Board of Elections meeting or the board members. We also don't want to be intimidating anyone or changing the atmosphere of the County Board of Elections meeting if you're going to record. So please just be mindful of when you are recording, that you're not disturbing the meeting. You can also always ask the County Board of Elections, is this meeting being recorded? That is some helpful information to know about. If you have further questions about recording or how to record a meeting, please reach out to Common Cause or myself at Democracy in North Carolina, and we can help you out with that. Recording meetings have been really helpful in gathering evidence, especially when there is a debate about ID exception forms, an election protest, or other sorts of comments that County Board of Elections or discussions are making that might be hard for you to capture in real time. We know everyone works differently. And so again, that's why we emphasize having a buddy system, bringing a friend with you to Canvas monitoring, so we can make sure that we're fully capturing the meeting. Any other questions, Anne?
So I just wanted to make sure that we got some questions about how long meetings usually last. And I wanted to share with folks that it's highly variable, which I know is not that helpful of an answer. But some smaller counties are able to do their business fairly quickly if they don't have a lot of provisional ballots or they don't have a ton of absentee ballots left to go through. Other times, even in those counties, some of those meetings can go on for a while if there's quite a bit of discussion. The day of Canvas meetings vary a lot too. Although generally the actual 11 a.m. Canvas meeting is not typically super long. However, if there are challenges that need to be heard during that time, or a number of people there trying to cure their ballots, there could be some additional agenda items that could extend the meeting time. So we always recommend kind of seeing what you can find out about the agenda when you arrive, but also being prepared for meetings to potentially go longer than you expect. It's another one of the reasons why we really are happy and fine if there are multiple people covering a meeting. That way, if something comes up and you can't go, or if you have to leave before the other person, there's somebody there. So it's great to have a buddy. We also had a question about state Canvas, and just really quickly, I just want to make sure folks know that there is the same process happens by the State Board of Elections. They receive the information from the counties, and then they go through their process of finalizing the election results. There will be a number of State Board of Elections meetings noticed publicly, and it's easy to get on their email list if you're interested in following those. And I think many of us on this call will be watching those meetings, and so that will be sort of a collective effort. And if folks are interested, we'd be glad to hold sort of a follow-up post-Canvas conversation with folks about how the county Canvas went and what we're expecting and seeing in the state process. And then one other, we had a couple of questions about like, who are we representing? Who do we say we're with? And so I know because there are 4 organizations hosting this training, and some of you might have even heard about this training through completely other organizations. We just want to say we are all working together, and the most important thing is to make it clear that you're there as a nonpartisan observer. There are often observers there from political parties. And so we want to make really clear that if you're observing with us and reporting to us, that you are doing that in a nonpartisan way. And then from there, if you received this training information from an organization, feel free to say that you're with them, or feel free to say you're with Democracy NC or Common Cause or Southern Coalition or NC Black Alliance. And so whoever you feel affiliated with is totally fine. But you also don't have to share an affiliation. You can just say, I'm here as a community member and I'm a nonpartisan observer. And then you already answered the questions about recording. So I think, did I miss anything, Lily, in the chat?
I think that hit most everything.
Okay. There was a question about reasons why a Board of Elections might go into closed session. Did we answer that? So it's pretty unusual for that to happen during a Canvas meeting, which is one of the reasons why we encourage you to let us know if that is happening, because most of the business that they need to do during a Canvas meeting should be on the public record. But as Jane said in the chat, typically they would go into closed session only for personnel matters, issues with the County Board of Elections staff that they need to talk about, or possibly if they're meeting with the county attorney to discuss something related to an election challenge or an election protest. And so If you see a county attorney is there participating in the meeting, that might indicate that there will need to be some kind of closed session meeting time. But we really appreciate folks flagging those situations when they arise. Okay, I think, did I miss anything that just came in? Yes, anything that that you perceive as misbehavior or disruptive behavior is absolutely something that we want you to report. Okay, any final questions before we oh, okay, sorry. Lisa had a really good important question about scheduling. Why do some counties only have that November 15th meeting on their schedule and no others? So here's why. Every county is required by law to meet at 11 a.m. on November 15th for Canvas. Many counties know in advance that they're going to need to have some additional meetings to work through, mostly to work through provisional ballots before the day of Canvas so that they aren't there like all day reviewing provisional ballots on November 15th. Some counties are better at getting those scheduled and getting them noticed publicly than others. And so we will be calling actually every day. We have some awesome law students from UNC who are going to be calling every day to check in on the schedules. And you will see what we call pre-Canvas meetings or what they might call provisional meetings added to most of those counties. It's pretty unusual given the number of provisionals with voter ID that we won't see some kind of pre-Canvas meeting, whether it's the morning of Friday the 15th or earlier that week. Many meetings will happen on the evening of November 14th for sure. I hope that helps. And yes, we please bring buddies and share the video with them so that they are better informed when they go to monitor with you. Okay. Yes, Thursday the 14th is going to be a very busy evening. And the reason for that is that is the deadline for most ballot cure options. So especially for voters to come in and show their voter ID if they voted without the voter ID exception form. So we expect to see many counties scheduling meetings for the evening on the 14th. Okay, there's just questions just keep coming. So James, you do not have to bring any documents in to get a photo ID at the Board of Elections. All you need to bring is your social security number or driver's license number.
I think you'll also have to provide your date of birth. But
Oh, thank you. And date of birth. Yes.
just know what they'll ask you.
Yeah, yeah. But that can be, all of that can be in your head. It doesn't have to be on any official document. Okay. Folks, we are so appreciative of the time you've taken with us tonight, the excellent questions that you have asked, and your commitment to helping ensure that we have free and fair elections and a strong democracy. And we are just incredibly grateful for all the folks who are signing up to volunteer and asking themselves, when can I be available to support this effort? So we will be emailing everyone who signed up for this Mobilize link by tomorrow morning with important information, all the links that you'll need. And you will also have contact information for us. Several of us will be sort of your volunteer access points. And so you'll be hearing from us quite a bit more in the next few weeks. And do not hesitate to reach out. Anything else?
Someone wants to know, Anne, if they have continuing questions, who they should contact. So who is that?
Pam, is your question specifically about poll monitoring? Caitlin, I don't know if, yeah, thank you. If you want to just go ahead and email Caitlin, she can make sure you get the information that you need. Awesome. We appreciate you all. Thank you. And have a great night. Hope
Uh,
everyone
you.
gets rested up before the busy season. Go
Good
ahead, John.
job.
Before we go, and I did just want to say one thing. I know we have some volunteers on that are regulars. Even if you are regularly monitoring a county, if you could still fill in the sign up form so that way we have a record of it. But just wanted to note that because I know some people, some of our regular volunteers are, are already, they're used to doing it, but just we want to make sure that we know which counties we have covered.
Amy, maybe we should just email. I want to make sure I understand the issue that you're having. So, feel free to come off mute and just tell me what you're running up into.
That text appears at the bottom of the sign up form. And if you follow the instructions and copy and paste that link into your browser, you just end up back at the form.
The form. Oh, yeah. Hey, Tyler, I think the link you put in the form is actually to the form and not to the other table.
Yes, thank you. I will make that correction right now.
The form might go down for like a second while he's fixing it, and just hit refresh and you should be able to do that again. Thanks for flagging it.
Tyler's been working too hard is the problem.
Yes, and just so folks know, so when you this will all be in the follow-up email, but when you go to the link to see